You shouldn't be here, my children! It's always nice when the big two recall that once upon a time, horror dominated the industry. Once upon a time, Marvel published an anthology series called Crypt of Shadows. And for their 80th anniversary, they revived the title. We begin with our framing story, Cynophobia, also known as the fear of dogs. John Radley is seeing a psychologist about his problem, his phobia of canines, and how it's impacting his life, making things difficult for him and his wife, since she loves dogs so much. The psychologist wishes to try a new technique, a post-hypnotic suggestion that may be useful for his treatment, but she needs to know about what it is about dogs that's upsetting him so much. As such, he regales her with a tale he heard about. A tale called Grave Errors. There once was a man who just had a tendency to make bad decisions. He used to be rich and had a plan to get back on top again. It's the best idea he ever had. But all of his ideas were the best idea he ever had. He invested money into a cure-all medicine that just ended up making people sicker. He married a woman who was rich, but her lawyers kept him from getting any money in the divorce, as well as the judge being quite adamant that this should have been settled in criminal court, not a civil one. I'm guessing the medical experiments turned him into a werewolf and he maimed several people. I could see someone say that's grounds for a divorce. I see it as grounds to renew your vows. His debt spiraled out of control and he became homeless. So now he needs money, breaking into a graveyard and knocking out the night watchman. He goes to a tomb supposedly keeping a recently deceased rich doctor who had no will, who no doubt buried everything he valued with him. The man has to use a crowbar with one hand to pry the door open, even letting it prop open the door, due to one of his arms being injured from another bad decision he made. But when he pries open the tomb, out pops a dog that bites his good arm, then runs off, knocking the crowbar away and sealing the man in there forever. The psychologist is confused. The story is clearly made up. After all, if he was never found again, how did the story of this ever get out? John is uncertain how he knows the details of it, but they move on to John describing his marital woes about dogs. This story, a moment of madness. He and his wealthy wife fell passionately in love with each other, wanting to start a family, but they were incapable of having children. As such, Vanessa got a dog from the pet store that she doted on despite his reservations. In the meantime, John spent his time at his research firm, how the scientist explaining that the supplement they were making did strengthen bone density for children, but it has deleterious effects on the brain, turning the user into a violent monster who eventually dies altogether. The money is running out, so they don't have the resources to fix this problem. So John went to Vanessa for more funding, but she could only provide $1,000, not nearly enough to be helpful. However, she was more than happy to continually spend money on her dog, giving it expensive dried steak for dinner. He decides to poison the dog with their experimental formula, make Vanessa afraid of dogs to make sure she doesn't seek a replacement. However, his son discovers that she actually tasted the dog's steak before feeding it to him. So she gets the first taste of the formula and attacks him. The psychologist wonders if this is a made-up story again. After all, the story implies that she fatally stabbed him, but clearly he is alive. He just has tendon damage in his arm. Nothing was proven in court, but it ruined him financially, socially, and mentally. It wasn't some old doctor who died and whose grave had to be robbed. It was hers. And the post-hypnotic suggestion to remove his fear of dogs? It was her treatment idea. She was his psychologist. It was how they met and fell in love. And indeed, she loved dogs and was buried with them. Them being the operative word. The stories John told, they were of himself, and he is currently in the tomb with her many pets that were sedated and kept in the tomb with her. And they're all beginning to wake up, and are very hungry. Crypt of Shadows? Seems more like a crypt of canines if you ask me, my children!